Hello and welcome, and let's talk about the hockey for Friday, the 28th day of December 2018. Review the games on Thursday, and talk about the picks on December the 27th, 2018. Now, what I'm probably going to do is I'm risking a little under 1% of my bankroll on this play, and I'm thinking about going to about 1.5, increasing it, basically doing better than double the size of the bankroll, but reducing it to about 6.5 to 7%, maybe 7% of a bet per play as I move forward. One of the things about this when I play is I always seem to notice just a little bit of unluckiness, and I'm going to go through today's game just to explain. And it's just a little bit. Devils at Bruins. This game was a big loss all the way. It never was close. Devils just dominated them entirely. And I lost a decent amount given that close to a unit lost on that game. The Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the New York Hockey Rangers. Well, that didn't work out so well either. And the Rangers had it. It was theirs for the taking, and they were unable to close the deal at the very end, and ended up losing in overtime. Ended up losing that game in overtime. Empty net came in, but instead of the Rangers scoring on the empty net, the Jackets scored with the extra man to force the overtime session. And my opinion plays working, or the ones I didn't play on, working very, very well. Red Wings at Penguins. Didn't like this plus 104 price, but they covered. They covered that spread. And other games I passed on doing very well as also, including Panthers at Capitals, which I guess I should have played considering I mean, technically speaking, it was marginal value. I thought maybe my fair line should have been lower or lower than the 161. Regardless of the fact the Capitals did win by multiple goals against the Carolina Panthers, and this was a very tough game with the Flyers and the Lightning. At least I got the first period, but the Lightning had a 5-2 lead and they blew it. Ended up going 5-5. The Flyers ended up tying it up, and the Lightning had a power play at the end of the third period. Were unable to capitalize on it, and they ended up taking the win in overtime. Buffalo and the Blues. The Blues won by multiple goals, and the Blues were a little hot. The Sabres were a little cold, so the Sabres are a little colder. Blues are a little hotter, and they won by multiple goals. So another passing game was a winner. Stars and Predators was a tough one. Stars won that game 2-0, so that wasn't even close. Flames and Jets. Again, this was one I'd have to say would have been a loser not playing, because the Flames were the winner, and they did win by multiple goals. And one of the strategies sometimes is just betting both teams minus a goal and a half. I'm betting on Cloud Bet, which has lines where both teams are for 1.5 goal lines. I like them a lot right now, and that is. I also got Bet Online too, but that's where I play. So if you can't find minus 1.5 for the underdogs because the next two plays were winners and such, then yeah. So Flames, they were the winner. I mean, they're a really good team, but I would have had to go with the Jets in this spot. As much as I love the Flames, a team that can do it on the road, uh, just a good team. I know the 3 losses they had in a row, but well, the Jets, of course, were the losers. Plus 326 was a winner. This is where if you were betting 1 unit per bet, this would really help because this takes 3.25 losses away. But Chicago Blackhawks, the goaltending, they only allowed a goal. They got a double-digit victory over the Minnesota Wild. And I don't enjoy watching games when I got wagers on. And if the wager sizes go up because I double my bankroll size, then I'm going to want to watch it less. But the game on tonight on the Canadian TV was Canucks at Oilers. It was on national in Canada. And the last few minutes were tough, to say the least, especially with Connor McDavid, albeit injured in the second period. So something to keep of note that he was playing hurt the last half of the game. but they didn't score. 4-2 was the final for the Vancouver Canucks. And that Edmonton shaky goalie, he got rocked. Cam Talbot came in, and he didn't allow a goal the rest of the way, but Vancouver wins 4-2, and there's a plus 347 winner. And as we look at the current scores of the games that are going on right now, we got Anaheim and LA. You can't see the LA logo. I can just bring it up right now. That's 1-1. The opinion play I have there is on Arizona and on the money line too. And as this goes on, there is going to be rarely a pick on the money line. It's going to be so rare. So rare. But that would have been one of them. And a lot of times they say in sports you can't play too many games. Well, I wish I would have played more games tonight. I also got San Jose and Anaheim. I took San Jose laying a half a goal in the first period. And, well, Anaheim scored in the power play in the first. And it's 1-1 right now with 16 minutes and 50 seconds to play in the period. So I got Vegas laying a goal and a half. Both games are 1 point differential. And on Friday, there's going to be two selections on the card. We got Montreal, Florida. That game is a anti-Miami probable. 87.6. Well, if Miami's in net, yeah, I might be thinking about Florida. Let's just take a look at Miami. 4-4, 4.14 goals against average, 87.6% save percentage. And 478 minutes. His last few games was a 7-1 loss, a 3-2 loss, a 6-2 loss. And he's not doing too well lately. He's allowed 3 or more goals in each of his last 10 games. He's allowed 7, 6, and a 4 spot of recent times. Where's the shots that he's allowing? Defense a little inconsistent, but 3 games here, the defense does not help him out at all against Vegas, Edmonton, and Buffalo. So I'm going to want to see the shooting team of the opponents if Carey Price is not in net. So there could be an extra play. And there's going to be a difficult pick. I think I'm playing Toronto no matter what on the goalie, but that's another tough one. And Florida, when you look at the matchup, see, now I know Montreal, if they're vulnerable to shots, how well does Florida do? Now, Florida comes into this game with a record. And what I do with this, I add the last 3 digits together. Because I don't care if it's an overtime loss, a shootout loss, or a regulation loss. A money line play is win or loss, and the puck line is a 2-goal differential. And I have to do some bit of work to find the 2-goal stats. And keyword is just a bit. So therefore, 7-9 home record, 8-11 road record. Florida sucks either way. Montreal 9-9 on the road, 10-9 at home. Montreal is about the same either way. So generally speaking, on that box line, you would consider to play on the road team. Both teams have went over the total. That should give you optimism on laying a goal and a half on whichever side you're going to play. So then, as far as the shots are concerned, there's 2 things I'm going to look at. One, I want to look at here. We can see that they've scored 27, 23, 26 shots in each of their last 3 games. Not so much. As far as an average, they're averaging 34.5 shots a game. So they're doing relatively good. At home, this is the home and away, they're averaging 35.9 shots at home. And this is the period stat. So here we see how in the second period, at least at home this year, Florida's outscored their opponents. They've scored an average of 2-1. I don't have second period bet totals. It's only the first period side and total. But you'd be looking at playing Florida and the over, because 2 to 1.13, and as a road team, Montreal is 0.78 to 1.33. But check the goalie, because it's either going to be Niemi or Price. Montreal didn't play tonight, so they're definitely going to be playing on Saturday. So I think, check the goalie. Maybe they may announce it's probably going to be something like whatever. Whoever is on the morning skate is usually the starter, if you could find out that information there as well. Next up is going to be a play on the Ottawa Senators versus the New York Islanders. We got a money line on the Islanders of minus 195, and the Ottawa Senators are just terrible. They are not a good team at all. So let's just click on the matchup and go through the numbers on this. And it's going to be laying a goal and a half. I got an okay price. Let me just check my price. I got in at plus 141, and that's laying a goal and a half on the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa comes into the game 4-13 on the road, 15-22 overall. They're 11-9 at home, so you go against them on the road, and you look to back them at home, especially if you get a good price. Now, in this situation here, Islanders are 10-9 on the road, and they're 8-8 at home. But I mean, it's really a fade against the Ottawa Senators. And when we look back at historical matchups, this is the historical stuff here. I'll put a little bit of thought into it. It's a conference game. I care mostly about divisional games. Conference games have a little bit of precedence, and interconference games very little at all. So the Ottawa Senators come into this game with a record of 0-4. Well, they've lost 3 of their last 4. They won this game against Detroit. Detroit's not a good team, but they're streaky and they got some good players. They beat Nashville, but Nashville's really starting to go downhill. A big 2-0 loss tonight. Boston, they lost to them 2-1. Pittsburgh, they defeated 2-1. And this loss here by Boston, actually that's not the game I'm looking at. Never mind. And then they lost 5-2 and 5-2 and home and home against Montreal. So therefore, of these losses, but what I do, and I might as well do it now, is I'll click on season, and then I get all of their past results in here. So I can just quickly look, and I'll look on the road games. And what I'll notice by scrolling through every single one of these, all losses except for one in overtime, is by multiple goals. They lost 5-2 to Jersey on the road, then they lose 5-2 to Montreal. They beat Detroit 4-2. Nashville, they lose 3-1. They beat Philly 4-3. They lose to the Rangers 4-2. Lose to the Stars 6-4. The Wild, they're defeated 6-4. They lose to the Panthers 5-1. Holy crap, they beat Tampa on the road 6-4. Plus 272 on the money line. But if you got to get anything, just literally almost every one of their games ends in a 2-goal differential. If they win, Buffalo, they win 4-2 here. But Buffalo, they lose 2-9, 9-2 loss. 4-3 loss in overtime. That's the only time they've lost on the road by 1 goal. Only time. 6-3 loss here against Colorado. They lose 6-3 to Boston, and they beat Toronto 5-3, and they're plus 246 on that game, on the money line. That means laying a goal and a half, they're like plus 4 something. Plus 500 even. So maybe you want to play both teams laying a goal and a half as well. Because there's not too many 1-goal games in these Ottawa Senators games. High scoring team, their defense is terrible. And they're a bad team, but they do win some games. Now let's look at the New York Islanders side. This is a team that has won 4 of their last 5 games. And look at the defensive goaltending. 3 of those games are 1-1-1. Winning these games by multiple goals on the road. They've done well enough at home in the multi-game victory. If we look at the statistical analysis here, Ottawa's average game is 3.9 to 3.2. The Islanders' average game is 2.8 to 2.7. Then I'm going to look at home and away. So on the road, Ottawa's average result is just, I don't know, this is the worst I've seen since like Ottawa when they were an expansion team. They were bad then. They're almost down 2 goals differential. Islanders haven't done great at home, obviously, but like I stated on the outset, this is mainly a fade on the Ottawa Senators. But this is an interesting stat. Ottawa, as a favorite, has never allowed a goal in the first or third periods. And they allowed a half in the second. So they've been favored, 2 times, and they've allowed 1 goal in those 2 games? Hey, bookmakers were sharp on those 2 games. Average or score would have been 5-1 in 2 games. But Islanders as a favorite have outscored their opponents 3.8 to 3, and as an underdog, which is pretty much every game for the Senators, they just get destroyed. Last 10, and you can look at the Islanders, they're down 2.5 to 2-4. But Ottawa, the fade team, and yeah, the last 10 the Islanders haven't done well. But I'm going to discount a lot of this, especially these two games, because once you look 2 games from now, the last 10 will look much better. But in the last 5 games, they've outscored their opponents 5 plus 7 is 12, plus 4 is 16, 16 to 5, 6, 7, 16 to 10, and 12 to 7. So they've done well upon that category. So the play there is the New York Islanders laying a goal and a half. Now, all teams are coming off of the Christmas break. So that's one thing I like to do is fade road teams off of a break. But in this case, I'm going to throw... Yes, San Jose got a beautiful goal. Thank you. Now, keep it going. Get the empty netter or get another one. Vegas tied at 1. I'm looking for Friday. Okay. We got the Toronto Maple Leafs going up against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Bobrovsky will get the start for Columbus, unless some sort of weird injury thing happens, because the backup played tonight. And they played the backup tonight because they're going up against a fierce Toronto team tonight. Columbus is an underdog, plus 107. Toronto is a minus 129 favorite. As of the start, or 4 minutes before the start of this recording, I have unable to get a line for myself. I should be able to get one anytime. And it's going to be a play on the Toronto Maple Leafs laying a goal and a half. This Toronto team is just spectacular. 13-6 on the road, 12-6 at home. So it doesn't matter if they're on the road or at home. This is the number, and I said yesterday, Tampa's the number 1 team. Well, this is the number 2 team, and if they can get a win here, maybe, Tampa won today too, so they're not going to increase on rankings against them. But Columbus 11-6 on the road, 10-9 at home. So you really want to go with Columbus to a degree. And I said I didn't want to bet against Columbus tonight, but I want to fade Columbus at home. And I want to go long on Toronto no matter what. Unless, of course, there's a spot that says no. But when I say no matter what, when you're 12-6 at home and 13-6 on the road, and you got this offense that they do, then it's a no-brainer. Okay, Columbus beat Toronto 4-2 on November the 23rd. So you got revenge. That's something of a note. That's a more recent event in November. And then November 19th, Toronto won, and Columbus got their revenge game there. So this is our third meeting amongst the two teams. And we take a look at Toronto. They beat Detroit 5-4 in overtime, unable to cover that goal and a half spread. Looking a little sloppy here and there, but they don't have problems scoring goals. Austin Matthews, his line mates with former San Jose Shark forward Patrick Marleau and young up-and-coming star Kapanen. Very good line. And then John Tavares playing with that of Mitch Marner. What a combination that is. Mitch Marner might be one of the best players in the league. Top 5, top 6 player right now, I think. He's not as good of a fantasy point player because he doesn't get as many shots or goals, but he's very good stick handler and gets a lot of assists. And then even the third line, and William Nylander's got 0 goals, 2 assists. I don't think he got a point this game. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But regardless of the fact, Toronto wins a lot of games. And when we look at their results this season on the road, they beat Jersey 7-2. They lose to Florida 4-3 and Tampa 4-1. That's an excusable loss. Tampa's a top team. They beat Carolina 4-1. They lose to their arch nemesis Boston Bruins 6-3. They beat Buffalo in overtime 4-3. They beat Minnesota 5-3. They lose to Columbus 4-2. They lose to Carolina 5-2. They win 2-1 in OT against Anaheim, 5-3 over San Jose, 5-1 against LA. They lose to their nemesis Boston Bruins 5-1. They beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-0. They beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-2. The Capitals 4-2. The Red Wings 5-3. The Stars 7-4. And they beat the Blackhawks 7-6. As I name these scores, this is almost like reading like scores back in the 1980s. Because hockey, it's like 6.2, 6.3 goals a game. which was like 1988, 89, 87, which was better than 92, 93. But 84, 85, 86, when it was like 7.5, 8 goals a game, that was interesting hockey. The Columbus Blue Jackets, they are a hot team. They are a hot team. But we are going to be playing as well. You know what? I haven't bet on Toronto yet. This team defensively has allowed 4 goals in their last 4 games. They have allowed 7 goals in their last 6 games. Ooh, something's got to give. Something's got to give. I might not bet this game. I might not bet it. That is just a spectacular run. And then, of course, this game here, 5-4. But you can't count that defensive effort because Bobrovsky, man, that goalie is hot. Let's just go on with the rest of the statistical stats. I mean, I'm not taking Columbus by any means. There is just even. I might take Columbus minus a goal and a half, though, at that awesome price. I might do that. I wouldn't bet much on it, though. Toronto, 3.78 to 2.78. Columbus, 3.25 to 3. When we look at the home and away, Toronto outscores their opponents 4-3 basically on the road. Columbus 3.2 to 3. As a favorite, which Toronto will be, they've outscored their opponents 3.8 to 2.6. And as an underdog, Columbus has outscored their opponents 3.3 to 2.8, which tells you they get the job done when the difficulty is tough. And this game, the difficulty is difficult. Interesting how I say that. But yes, I'm definitely leaning myself away from the play on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's see if I can find anything else amongst such. In the last 10 games, the Columbus just putting a defensive effort along the place. Again, it's going to be such a difficult task for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's see how they do with rest, because they did play on the Thursday night session. So what we'll do is we'll look on the on days rest. And Toronto does really well when they get lots of rest. Columbus with no rest is 1-5, and then 2 of the losses in overtime. And Toronto with lots of rest is they're 2-0, so that doesn't really count. But 2 days rest, they're 9-3, and Toronto in a back-to-back is 10-8. So the general rule of thumb is if Toronto has rest, 1 day's rest, you don't play them. That's just the rule of thumb with the Leafs, I guess. But they have a whole Christmas break coming off of the from where they're coming from. And therefore, I think a lot of this will refer to the goalie matchup. I'm going to go back to scores and schedules, get an update on the game. Hopefully it's 3-1 San Jose now. And hopefully Vegas has found a way to get a goal, because I need them to have a lead for an empty netter. No lead for Vegas. There's 18 minutes left. 7 minutes and 50 seconds left in the second period for San Jose. Okay. So then we're first going to take a look at Sergei Bobrovsky, because those goals allowed is just a telling sign of how well he's playing. We have a 0, a 3, a 1, a 0, a 2, a 1 spot. So in his last 6 games, 3, 4, 7 goals in his last 6 games. Does he got his minutes here? It's pretty much been the same. He has an overtime game here, and they might pull him for... Well, they wouldn't be pulling him anywhere because they've been winning. So he's out. He's just hot. And when you look at goalies and hockey players in general, when you're on the streaks and you got things, especially goalies, I should be saying, when you're on a streak that's either really good or really bad, and that confidence or lack thereof really can loom within those players. And right now, especially with Columbus being as successful against the New York Hockey Rangers, That's just that little bit of extra confidence I think that's going to really help that goaltender. Especially after this game against Calgary where he allowed 8 goals on 26 shots against the Calgary Flames. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing, but when you look at some of the opponents he played against, New Jersey, that's an average scoring team. Philly's got some offense. They scored 3. New Jersey again. Vegas, they got an okay offense. Anaheim's got a lackluster offense. Los Angeles has got lackluster offense. Washington's got a good offense. Calgary's got a good offense. Okay, well, yeah, I think it's going to work out that I'm going to pass the game unless, of course, I see that the starter is going to be that of Garrett Sparks. Because Garrett Sparks isn't playing too well. And Freddie Anderson, he's playing really good too. He's playing good hockey right now. And he has really helped their team in a couple of games. He's made a lot of big saves. So with Freddie Anderson in net, I really can never bet on Leaf games under the total. Meaning on a 6.5. I mean, the total is 6. I'd have to go up to 6.5 at that. But I would consider an under bet if Freddie Anderson were to start the game. So if we go to season, does it show the goalies? He played against Detroit. Garrett Sparks. So Garrett Sparks wins 5-4, and he struggled his game before that. Losing 5-4 to Detroit again. Before that, he got a shutout against Philly 6-0. Beats Anaheim 2-1. Loses to Boston 5-1. Beats Los Angeles 4-1. And beats Chicago. That was a wild game, 7-6. That was a fun game to watch. Now the thing about Garrett Sparks is, and I said at the off season, if I was like front management of the Leafs, and I'm glad I wouldn't have done this, but I would have traded Frederik Andersen, and I would have done so for like young players, prospects, premium draft picks, because I want my salary cap lower. And I want to get premium future stars for Freddie. And I know the Chicago Blackhawks would have been one team I would have talked to first because they were in desperate need and still probably are of goaltending. Because Garrett Sparks last year, he had a phenomenal season in the minor leagues last year. A goals against average under 2, a save percentage around 930 something to 940. Just phenomenal. But it was in minor leagues. So you have to put that for what it's worth. And their backup goalie, Curtis McElhinney, well, he had a phenomenal backup season last year. So I would have figured play those two goalies, like 50-50, and then you can go out and maybe get another big name player later on because of the cap space that you would save. But we look, Freddie Anderson has been nothing more than phenomenal. We take a look at his stats this year. He has been great, especially lately. 5-3 wins, 6-1 wins, 7-2, loses 4-3. That's 4 against Tampa, wins 4-1. So in this time, he's made a lot of big saves of late, but through the season, career statistics, with Anaheim, defensive team, more of a defensive time in the league as the last 3-4 seasons goals have been picking up. But 2.29 goals against average as a rookie, 2.38 second year, 2.3 again, and the defense in Toronto really done him in the last couple of seasons. But down to 2.50 goals against average. What makes that more impressive is the fact that there's a lot more goals in the league. So 2.81 last year is like a 3 this year. And a win-loss record of 20-10 compared to 38-26 the year before. Because Toronto will be playing the New York Hockey Islanders on Saturday night. This is a long video. But I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I give you an idea. I'll give a quick early look of what I'll be seeing on Saturday. But This is really just early look at the Saturday card. I'll look at the games on the left-hand side first, then we'll go to the right-hand side. Carolina against New Jersey. Oh, they got lines already. Okay, this is awesome. Minus 110 for New Jersey. Yeah, whatever. Kings are bad. Vegas will be... we'll take a look at later on to see how Vegas does on the road there. But Kings are at home and they got the plus money price. I don't see how I'm not going to take Buffalo laying a goal and a half if you're giving Buffalo even odds. Really? Ottawa plus 150 against Washington. Not a bad price for Washington, probably laying a goal and a half there. Philadelphia at Florida. Florida minus 152. Oh, I'm not going to say anything on that right now. Nashville, you know what? Nashville sucks right now. And the Rangers blew it, but the Rangers suck on the road. Oh, that's going to be a difficult game. Chicago at Colorado. I'm going to be probably going... Colorado's playing like crap right now. Or playing like shit. It's really bad how bad Colorado's playing lately. And Chicago's picking it up. A big win for them tonight. So there's a very high chance I'm going to be going on Chicago on that game. And I'll be looking at first period statistics as well. But Calgary minus 230. Well, Calgary's a good team, but that's a big price. I don't know what I'll be doing there. Okay, right-hand side. We got Winnipeg minus 175 home to the Minnesota Wild. That's not that large of a price, really. There's a good chance I'll be laying a goal and a half on Minnesota there. Connor McDavid got hurt tonight. San Jose's playing right now. And San Jose is a favorite, minus 139. So I think they're pricing a little bit of that in, and the fact that Edmonton is not playing as well. Oh, minus 250 for Toronto. And they haven't even played. That's odd. I mean, these are usually look-ahead lines. Minus 250. Well, I'll probably still lay a goal and a half on them if Freddie... I mean, I'll know tomorrow who's starting this game, because whoever's starting on Friday is not starting on Saturday. That's just the way hockey is on a back-to-back. Tampa Bay minus 250 at home against Montreal. I'll probably play Tampa Bay again, laying a goal and a half, and I'll check more on Montreal. Pittsburgh against St. Louis. St. Louis is a home underdog, so I'm going to get a decent price on the minus 1.5 on St. Louis. I'll check more statistical point on that on Saturday. That's a lot of games. I love it. There's going to be a lot of games on Saturday. Detroit and Dallas. Big line for Dallas. That is a large line. See, the thing about Detroit, they got a good scoring team led with Dylan Larkin. So if I can get a good plus price on Detroit minus a goal and a half, I'll check to see later on statistically if it's worth doing, and then goaltending. And finally, Arizona on the road in Anaheim. Anaheim a minus 182 line. Well, Anaheim's at home. I don't like Arizona games because they're just lower scoring. So there's a good chance I might even pass that game completely. Let's get a look at the live scores now and end the video. So thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure doing this video and sharing with you how I look at the game. Now, I know the games aren't final. Vegas, 12 minutes to play, tied at 1. And San Jose leads 1 by 2. See, even if this was third period, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, 2-1, a lot of these 2-goal games are that of the empty net. Because having your goalie being pulled for like a significant period of time, not back in the day it used to be about 60 seconds or a minute. Now it's in the area of 2 to 3. Then you're either going to get one of two things more times than not. Either the team that's, if it's 2-1, it's a lot of times either going to be 3-1 or 2-2. Either they're going to score with the net empty and force overtime as it is, or they're going to have that empty net goal that comes into play. It really doesn't make too much of a difference what the result will be, because either I'm going to win a little bit, break even, or have an okay loss if both games come into negative play. Because if I lose 2 games here, I'm going to lose a little over 2 units. If I go 1-1, then I will be basically barely down. And if I get both of those games right, then I'll be up a unit. But again, like I'm stating, I'm probably going to increase my bankroll. I'm going to be putting way too much time in this. So I'm going to want to make the risk reward be worth it. Because if my risk is low, then my reward becomes lower. So I'll most likely, and I'm going to prepare for Saturday. I don't need to make any type of deposits tomorrow because there's only 2 games. I'm not betting the other one. What I want to look into as well is the AHL, American Hockey League, but the problem there is the vig is a little higher, or the juice, and I haven't looked at any historical scores whatsoever, and I find myself I'm at a little bit more of a disadvantage, but the lines are usually easier to win, or they take less to look at it. Also, I want to look at the hockey. I didn't even look at today's lines. I didn't realize Canada was playing until near the end, and they barely beat the Swiss 3-2. But I really want to look at the Danes, and really look to be fading them the rest of the way, because they got their asses destroyed by the Canadians. So if the Switzerland are a pretty good hockey team, I'd almost want to lay 4 or 5 goals on the Swiss against the Great Dane. So that's what I'm going to be looking at as well in the World Junior Championships, is fading the Great Dane. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. I'll be back. I'm looking my crypto videos for any hockey plays. Because of this long analysis, I probably won't be doing a video until, I might do one tomorrow night regarding the plays tonight and then the Saturday games. But for Saturday's action, it'd either be Friday or late tomorrow night or Saturday morning. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.